At that time, I was very hot in the business. I was coming up, I just done Platoon, Wall Street was respected to some degree, and I had Born on the 4th of July about to go. So you have to understand that this was a big step for me, and yet in my heart I knew it was not a commercial movie, because I felt like it was an art movie or it's a cult movie, but it's something that's so monomaniacal that you have to nurture it very carefully. It's an amazing looking movie. I watched it recently and I'm amazed at the technology of it. And I'm also like the performances, not only of Eric Bogosian, but of John McGinley and Leslie Hope, Ellen Green, and Alec Baldwin is terrific in the movie and a great contrast to Barry Champlain. The good thing about Barry Champlain is that he was an honest and authentic human being. And the way Eric played him, it was to the hilt. I liked Eric's performance. And I am very proud of talk radio. I can't, it's not like a normal film that I've done, it's just different. I first got interested in talk radio in 1987 when it was a hit on off-Broadway with Joe Papp's theater. Ed Presman, with whom I had made Wall Street, had optioned the property from Joe Papp, and it was an interesting play in which Eric Bogosian acted out what he wrote, and it was a monologue, essentially, a one-act play, one act, less than an hour long. And John McGinley was in it, who'd been in Platoon. Michael Wincott was in it, and a couple of other actors. But essentially it was Eric Bogosian, who had been a performance artist in the East Village, expressing his rage, and it was very witty and very smart and about contemporary life. It was a fresh outburst on the American scene. The play was respected, but it was more performance art. It didn't strike me as, in itself, as enough material for a movie. Ed had produced it and he wanted me to get involved with the screenplay. Wall Street had just opened and I felt disappointed by the reviews. The business was okay, but it was not the kind of movie that was going to go and be a big success like Platoon had been, so I was a little disappointed. I didn't know that Wall Street would have a life of its own and it would grow, but at that time I was down. And I had the go-ahead to make Born on the 4th of July next. This was a huge project that had been brewing in my world for 10 years. I had written it 10 years before. I'd worked with Al Pacino, and I really was worried about getting this made correctly. I had Tom Cruise at this point, but he had another commitment to make Rain Man first. So it was a long wait. It was almost a year's wait for him to do the movie. And I had taken on the role of producing talk radio, and I had read another book called Talk to Death, the story of Alan Berg, the radio show host who'd been shot to death by a vigilante right-wing group in Denver, Colorado in 1984. The story was shocking, and it was about this new phenomenon in America called talk radio, and people expressing their hatred on the air and their anger, and nothing had been seen like this really, as far as I know, in American culture. So it was a new phenomenon that, but Alan Berg, I heard his recordings, he also would provoke. But Alan Berg, to be honest, was very political, you see. And he was a liberal in Denver, which had a very strong fascist side, and the groups that went after him were, you know, the vigilantes that always inhabit our culture, neo-Nazis, a political phenomenon. And I thought it'd be a good idea for a movie. But if we could combine the play, a lot of the elements of the play, with Eric in a lower budget movie, along with the elements that I saw in the Alan Berg story. So we bought the book on Berg and we combined it with the play. We gave Eric the first pass on the screenplay, and his telling of it, he tells his story very well about how he wrote the screenplay, and then I came in and I wrote another draft, and then he wrote a draft, and then we essentially went back and forth for almost a few months of like a chess game, playing with lines of dialogue. The screenplay took a bit of work, and it was done on time, on schedule, and it worked perfectly because it fell in right before Born on the 4th of July, which started late in that year of 1988. Born on the 4th was started in Dallas. We were able to make the schedule. We learned a lot about the crew. We learned a lot about, I picked up a lot of confidence on that movie, because it's talk radio, if you look at it, it's an extremely difficult movie to shoot. It's not, how do you make it interesting? Because it's a guy talking for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and we managed, I think, to make it interesting.
The $200 billion drug problem in this country could disappear overnight. Legalize the damn stuff. Do it today, right after this message. I'm Barry Champlain. This is Night Talk. We're going to go to a message. I'll be right back after I shoot up.
The deal with Bogosian that Pressman made was that he would use Bogosian to star. They may have been mention of another actor, but I thought it was a good idea because it was not going to be made for a big budget. It was a risky picture, and we just wanted to go with the elements. He originated the role, he wrote it, and it was natural for him to star. Eric, in his strange way, that was him. You see, you write the role, it's like you got to play it. But basically, we took the play, we broadened it out into a flashback with his relationship with his wife, who was played by Ellen Green, and his relationship, how he became to be the radio shock jock that he became by going back into his early days as a fan, as a clothing salesman, which is part of the Alan Berg story. And there was a tenderness in the earlier character, a sense of vulnerability that we did not get from the play. And I think that's very important to me, because I wanted to know what made this man the kind of monster that he became.
Could I have your autograph?
But we broke it up, you know. We didn't always go, and we got outside the play. We were in the gym for the basketball game. We were in the parks in the daytime for the wife. There was a scenes in the apartment with Leslie Hope. We broke it up a lot, and I think we succeeded in maintaining the interest for 90-some minutes, and it becomes a twisted kind of plot where he tries, essentially, through his wife and the people around him who he treats like shit, he tries to rediscover his humanity, the feelings that he once had for his wife. He admits in his flashbacks how bad a husband he was, how difficult it is for him to relate to people. We know a lot of people like that. Prickly relationships. We knew it was a studio shoot. We could have done it in Los Angeles, New York, but we said, why not go to Dallas, get the hang of the place, feel it out, because Texas is a different environment. It's a right-to-work state. We were going to make talk radio in 5 to 6 weeks. I think it was 5 weeks, 25 days, 27 days. That radio station didn't exist in real time. We built it as a fantasy. So there was no radio station that was quite that beautiful or perfect, you know. But we built it to our needs for camera in a studio in Las Colinas Studios in Dallas, outside Dallas. It was quite a job. Essentially, Bruno Rubeo built an extremely complicated but beautiful set. We could do long gliding dollies from one part of the stage to the other. We could shoot with windows, 3 different sets of windows. The lighting was very beautifully done by Bob Richardson, as well as the camera moves. You know, I'm trying to make the point that I learned a lot. I'd only done 5 feature films at that time. Very primitive, some of them. Platoon was relatively primitive. So here was a chance to develop a technique that would prepare me to do Born on the 4th of July, which was this film about a man in a wheelchair, which is pretty difficult to do. It's a claustrophobic experience, and I wanted to get low and shoot low and get into the point of view of the wheelchair. By taking a radio station and a man who's essentially a mouthpiece who's talking, we would concentrate on the claustrophobia of the movie, the sense of his own world, his paranoia closing in on him, choking him. And we have very tight, extreme close-ups of microphones and lips and dials. We didn't do a long, deep focus because we didn't really have the depth in the stage to do it. We didn't build huge sets. We used diopters. We really embraced strong diopters where we would try to make the foreground very sharp and the middle ground very sharp, as well as the background if we could. The studio booths were built on both sides of the stage, so you'd have somebody in the middle, you'd have somebody in the booth, and then somebody in the back booth. So you'd see 3 levels of, like a 3-ring circus. And we kept it going, man. When I see the movie recently, I saw the camera moves, the way it keeps, I mean, it's very difficult to shoot this. It can be very static, but it keeps moving. And we also had a translite on the 4th wall. It was a translite of the city of Dallas at night.
I mean, you're black. Don't you know how Jews feel about blacks?
The glass shots are the hardest to pull off because of density. And I forgot the details, but, you know, getting focus so tight through glass, and also what it does to light. I think Bob Richardson could tell you that he probably learned a lot on that movie. But we did double glasses and triple glasses. Yeah, oh yeah. It was great stuff. And we did everything as much as we could. There was not much CGI. There was no CGI in those days, I don't believe. No. CGI started for us on The Doors, I think, a little bit of that. It wasn't very strong influence in my movies until Natural Born Killers, I think. But even that, we used a lot of in-camera stuff. So it's certainly on talk radio, we used, it was a dimmer that took her down. It was a lot of dimming. Bob was Richardson was playing with dimmers at that time heavily, because we were going to go into The Doors, remember, and The Doors has a lot of dimmer effects on it, as well as Natural Born Killers. That was a Storaro technique that Bob developed into his own technique. Storaro used a lot of dimmers too, as I remember, prior to that. We always I certainly admired the films of Bertolucci, and I was a big fan of his, you know, because I thought it was one of the most elegant cameras that I've ever seen.
You're on me every night like a pack of wolves because you can't stand facing what you are and what you've made.
We put Bogosian up on a dolly and wheeled him around and in front of the camera. We moved the camera in various ways on boards. We strapped him down, and I think we moved him around us. Yeah, that's right. We strapped him to a table. I think he's on a table. And we put him on a big board, and basically we swiveled him around us. So we put him against the windows, strapped down on the same board. Basically, we're a rolling waltz in the studio. And the reflections on that shot, it's very hard to pull that off because you have to, I believe, I'd have to ask Bob again, but you'd have to take the shadows down and out. You'd have to constantly be aware of reflections as you come against these 3. There were 3 booths around the set, as well as a window on the 4th wall. Very complicated movie, by the way, for 25, 28 days. And a nightmare in a way. Also, there's some great stuff, as I remember, of Alec Baldwin gliding through rooms, and Barry too. That Steadicam, I believe, in the early days, Steadicam became very helpful to us in Born on the 4th of July, but I think we probably tried it there. Although I do think there was a lot of dolly shots, as I remember. But, you know, when Barry comes out of the radio booth, goes into the lobby, comes through his office, which is another booth with a lot of windows, and into another engineering room, you see the world every time. I think we really pulled it off. As I said, it gave me confidence for Born on the 4th of July, which was important. I wasn't ready to do a wheelchair movie of that stature and magnitude. This gave me that confidence to go for it because the camera could handle it. And Richardson and I and Bruno Rubeo, who just died, Bruno was our art director, really did a beautiful job there. But Bruno and I and Bob worked very hard. The audio experiment was also interesting because we worked closely with Bill Abbott and various radio people. I remember Aneth White was our consultant. She'd worked on shock radio. And I think the levels of audio usage and the mixage of Wiley statement, it was very interesting what we did. So we kept moving the oral, the center of the oral activity from left to right to center, layers of it. The oral work on the film is extremely dense.
Night Talk, we're back. This is the spirit of Barry Champlain. Joe, hit me with your best shot.
I know where you live, partner. All right? I know what you look like.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet dreams, sweetheart.
It's a voice-inspired movie. We sense the people who are talking. We never see who these characters are. I think we had 15, 17 voices off camera. And each one of these voices had a distinct personality.
I raped 3 women since then. Do you remember me?
I'm not sure. Refresh me, John.
Neo-Nazis, petulant housewives.
And we have Teresa on the line.
The day will come for you, Barry.
The voice actors are great. You know, you don't see their faces, but I can't tell you how important a voice can be. You establish an identity. You hear these, Park Overall came on. She was a young actress, and she plays a bitter old woman, and she played a young, sexy woman, multiple roles. But her range, the voice work was amazing. And it reminds me how much you can create through the power of suggestion. And the crowd that is on the voices are a mix of people. The thing is, somebody who calls up to wish him a happy birthday is not exactly the kind of material that Barry Champlain wants on the air. It's not dramatic. So he goes with he likes to mix it up. He likes the crowd that hates him. That gives the friction that ignites his show. So he only takes the callers who turn him on. And it's interesting the way he discovers his dynamite, his hatred, his own anger. So he likes the bigots and he likes the morons. And I think we had some fun with that too, because there were some very funny calls, I thought.
We're back. I'm Barry Champlain. You're listening to Night Talk. We have a very special guest with us tonight, Kent. Say hello to everybody, Kent.
All right.
And you actually see one of the people who speaks. There was the intrusion of Michael Wincott, who was a wonderful actor who came in as a stone teenager, Kent. And he was with his wig. But that was in the play, and that one was one of the best techniques of the play. That was a wonderful moment.
I come in here every night, I tear into you, I abuse you, I insult you, and just keep coming back for more. What's wrong with you? Why do you keep calling? I don't want to hear anymore. Stop talking! Go away!
Gosh, that is such a speech. Also, you know, it's a brilliantly written speech, and there's a lot of passion and anger, and it's as if he wants to bring the world down. I know so many people who are self-destructive that way. I'm not that type of person, and that's perhaps why there's a distance between me and the film. I find it's too much, you know, it's like, but I think it's good drama, but I think that's part of it. It's so much, he's too much. He's like the guy who cries, who goes crazy in front of you, like a Lars von Trier character, who's like screaming in your face until he gets your attention. And, you know, you have to admire the honesty of him and the need and the naked need, but it's, why do you take it on the air? I think I'm typical in the sense I'm more ordinary, in the sense like, you know, if you can't communicate with yourself, why do you have to go out in the air and communicate with other people? Try to work it out with yourself first. That's my instinct. So the need of Barry Champlain to have to be so naked is really a performance need. And that's an Eric. That was an Eric. I don't know where he is now, but that's what a performance artist is. They go out on the stage, they have nothing, they have no props practically, and or a microphone, and they do their thing. And you see that again and again, and it's just staggeringly naked and vulnerable, but I admire them and I hate them at the same time. Certainly Alan Berg, all these shock jocks, they're crazy a bit. They love themselves, you know, so much. Their egotism. It's also, to some degree, what's in an actor, too. An actor has that sense of suicidal narcissism sometimes.
Fred, you're on Night Talk.
Yes. You see, Barry, I know it's depressing that so many people don't understand that you're just joking.
Jackie, you're on Night Talk.
Hello. I've been listening for years, and I find you a warm and intelligent...
Arnold.
What you were saying before about loneliness, I'm an electrical engineer.
Lucy.
Barry, my mother is from Waco, and she wants to know if you went to high school with...
Larry.
Why do people insist on calling homosexuals normal?
Ralph.
The editing was very difficult. I don't know how many editors worked on it. I always work with, I think generally I've worked with multiple editors. I think we were editing it in Texas as we were preparing Born on the 4th of July. As I said, Cruise was making Rain Man, so he was delayed and we were waiting for him. And we would cross over once we were doing makeup tests for Born on the 4th of July as we were shooting talk radio. It was a concentrated edit, because I'm sure when I started Born on the 4th of July, I was not editing, there was no time. And I remember at the time, because my mind was on Born on the 4th of July, I didn't expect much from talk radio. And we had a small exhibitor distributor, Garth Drabinsky, who had a wonderful group of theaters at that time called Cineplex Odeon, which are still around to some of them. And unfortunately, Garth, because he was eager to have a big hit and to make a big splash, he was always a little bit too fast, a little bit ahead of the game. He brought the movie out in Christmas of 1988 that year, which is a mistake. He should not have put it out at Christmas against big movies from studios with budgets. So the movie got buried, and the reviews were very mixed. My reviews are always mixed, so that's not a surprise. So I always have to live with the idea that some people come to my movies before they even see them with an attitude. But I was very disappointed I was in Dallas in December of '88, shooting Born on the 4th of July in that miserable Veterans Administration, VA hospital. Hospital was a nightmare to shoot, depressing. And then, of course, talk radio comes out, and I'm in this Dallas apartment, and, zero number, how depressing that can be. I think I had a breakdown after that. I got very sick about that week. I had to be admitted to the hospital for dehydration, actually. So the reviews were not spectacular, and the business was not there for this kind of movie. Who's Eric Bogosian? He was not known, and we cannot compete at Christmas. It should have come out in a smaller venue later early in the winter of 1989. But it's a wonderful movie, and you know what? It's been respected, and people who didn't like some of my other movies always told me I love talk radio because it was so different. It's like Salvador, and it's offbeat. And it won. It wasn't all bad. I mean, it was beautifully received in Berlin in 1989. In February, I believe, it received a Silver Bear, which is a very big prize. I think it was to Eric Bogosian for his acting in the movie, and I was there. In looking at the movie the first time and the last time, as a critic said, it's ultimately overwrought. I mean, it's a movie that it's so intense that you cannot enjoy it as much as you'd be overwhelmed by it. And I think that there's a truth to that about enjoying a movie. And I always felt like talk radio, and I said this years later, but it was always my least favorite character. Not my least favorite movie, but I didn't like Barry Champlain that much. I've always dealt with heroes to some degree, and I found him to be obnoxious, and that's what he was. But I had to go a long way to understand him, to reach out to him. I think it did me some good, because then I reached out years later for Richard Nixon, and I reached out for George Bush. These are not likable people, or they are likable, George Bush is, but to make them understandable. So I have a penchant, I think, in my life to go to characters who might be difficult to like. When a film doesn't do any business, you're disappointed, and also you perhaps diminish it in your memory. But honestly, I'm not being immodest to say that I enjoyed watching it. It's amazing that we pulled it off, in the sense that you keep watching it. It may not be an attractive character, but he's certainly watchable, and he keeps your interest, and the movie works for me, and I admire the virtuosity of it, how slick and incredibly complicated it is, and with the multiple voices going off, and it really is how do you say, it's the use of it is the use of a Wellesian cinema, where Wells was great for his overlaps. You see, I love about Wells is the information he gives you so fast, but even if you don't get it all, you get the mood. I kind of love that, and this movie had that go, go, go aspect to it. It was better than I remembered it. As I said, my original view was perhaps distorted by the lack of success. But look what happened. It's amazing how talk radio became a political power source for so many people.
Excuse me, Barry. Barry, Mr. Champlain, I hate to bother you. Do you think you could give me an autograph, please? Some show tonight.
Sure. What'd you say your name was?
You're dead, fucker!
But it's about media too, isn't it? It's about the corrupting power of media and how it can change the concept of celebrity. You know, why does Barry Champlain killed? Why is he killed? He's killed because he provokes so much celebrity. He builds up the heat around him instead of feeling that it's dangerous. He lets it go, and he creates this vortex of storm of anger and frustration, which is very much what the media is capable of. The media in our day has gotten even more powerful and is able to put a rumor out there and create such a disturbance in our society. It's amazing the power of the media. And this is what Barry Champlain does. He creates his own death. He destroys himself because he turns it in. But imagine a media where they're trying to make money and they just turn it out. So you disturb the whole population, but you make a lot of money by showing bad news and horror. That's what Barry Champlain does, but he feels guilty at the end. In that last scene you talked about, he does feel this wiped out. He feels like he's reached a level where he said he's completely, he's come on film. He's like destroyed himself. He's like made a fool of himself, the ultimate fool. He cries at the end, I have nobody, I'm alone in the world. And he's brought about his own extinction. There's no other place to go. He's grateful almost to be killed in the end by some lunatic. There's no conspiracy to kill him either, you should mention that. You know, they always say I'm conspiracy-minded, but the truth is, in this case, no, it's just not a conspiracy. It's a single death. His murder is a conspiracy of himself and his murderer.
You can turn the radio off. Until Monday, this is Barry Champlain reminding you that sticks and stones can break your bones, but words cause permanent damage.
Bad to the bone. Bad.
It's time to strap him up and wheel him away for his weekend therapy. But Barry Champlain will be back with more Night Talk Monday on KGAB Dallas.